President. The senator from New Jersey.
I really appreciate that recognition, sir. I've seen something I haven't seen since I've been on the Judiciary Committee, which is a complete chorus of condemnation of a circuit court judge. We've had every single person express an interest in coming down here from the Democratic members of that committee to condemn us moving forward with such rapid pace on this nomination. Now, I would love to just leave it there, but there is something that makes it even more urgently necessary to focus, because as much as it might seem like this is a Democrat versus Republican, I'm very happy to see already some Republicans, not enough for us to stop this nomination, but this will be a bipartisan group of opponents, which is rare in this time of fierce partisanship, to see some Republicans looking at the evidence, looking at what Mr. Bove has said, looking at what Mr. Bove has done, looking at how he has insulted the very office that he hopes to hold of a judge's orders. People who are looking objectively at the facts are starting to see that this would be a terrible mistake in a bipartisan way. That gives me some hope that with the hours left on the clock, perhaps others too will take the time to understand one of two things. One, clearly, as I believe, and others, not just Democrats, but career prosecutors, career public defenders. We have seen judges. We have seen so many people come forward from both sides of the aisle to say this is wrong. It would be wrong for the senators to do this. This is why we're starting to see some Republicans show more interest, and at least more than one come forward and say they will not support this nominee. It's because the facts are so glaringly clear that this is someone who has no respect for the rule of law. This is someone who's shown that no temperament to be a judge. This is someone who has been condemned for his lack of ethics, that has withheld exculpatory evidence as a prosecutor, has been given the worst Brady violation condemnation from a judge. There are so many things that are legion about this individual that on the face of it is why so many career professionals are coming forward to say that we should not be moving forward. But the second reason why people are having pause is because we are rushing this nomination before questions are answered. Too many people are moving too quickly on the other side of the aisle to get this done before questions are answered. Information is obtained from the record that this body, which is supposed to be deliberative, is supposed to advise and consent, should not be moving forward if they were to honor the obligations that we have. Let me give the multiple reasons why we are moving too quickly without information on substantive things that should raise alarms for all of my colleagues. We asked to hear the testimony of a whistleblower who came forward with tangible evidence, texts, and emails showing that Emil Bove instructed the DOJ attorneys to ignore a court order if it impeded Trump's agenda. Bove said, "F you to the courts." Republicans in the Senate Judiciary Committee refused to hold a hearing to meet with this whistleblower, not a Democrat, but a career prosecutor. Instead, we saw the vote being rammed through in the committee. Senator Kim and Senator Blumenthal and members on the Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee, which has oversight on the question of whether DHS violated a court order, asked the whistleblower to testify before them under oath. That committee has also not concluded their oversight. It is just a stunning and alarming fact that my colleagues on the Republican side have disregarded the credible account of someone who dedicated 15 years to public service and jeopardized their career and reputation to come forward at a time that people who step forward and tell the truth often face real reprisals. Second, in 2018, many former Southern District of New York prosecutors took the unprecedented step of alerting Emil Bove's supervisors to his unethical conduct as a prosecutor, calling him the drunk driver of prosecutors, saying that he was reckless and dangerous in the way that he went about with prosecutions. Unprecedented step of former SDNY prosecutors. 2 years later, Emil Bove was responsible for the biggest Brady violation in Southern District of New York's history. He withheld exculpatory evidence, resulting in the DOJ having to toss out the case after a guilty verdict. His actions were so egregious that the judge used them as an example of what a prosecutor should never do. Many of my colleagues and I on the Judiciary Committee have requested more information from the Southern District of New York about his tenure. We still have not gotten it, yet we are moving forward. Number 3. Finally, after receiving credible information of Emil Bove's role in the Trump administration's burying of evidence about what is going on right now, the man that was at the central position to know what was going on with the Epstein files, we have made legitimate requests from him about this, and he has not responded. There are so many questions about Mr. Trump's interest in hiding whatever their files are, contradicting themselves. Either there are truckloads of evidence and lists, or they're not, but Emil Bove was acting in the Justice Department at the time, and now we have even more reason to question Emil Bove. Just hours ago, it was revealed that the DOJ told Donald Trump that his name appears many times in those files. Emil Bove was the top official at DOJ who also happens to be Trump's personal lawyer. We should know what his role was in reversing course on releasing those files. It would be unconscionable for the Senate to move forward with his confirmation with those answers not being provided. As I told the Judiciary Committee, there is a false urgency around this nominee. The only reason for this urgency is because the president wants his loyalists on the federal bench without facing any more scrutiny as to what he knows and what his role was. Even without answering these questions, there is more than enough in his record that disqualifies Bove from a lifetime appointment to one of the highest courts. But let's go one more, January 6th. Bove's role in Donald Trump's administration's effort to erase the tragic events of January 6th, of that attack on the Capitol, is disqualifying. As one of his first official acts, Trump pardoned nearly 1,600 people who attacked this Capitol, including 200 people who violently assaulted the law enforcement officers. Bove was one of the highest-ranking officials at the DOJ, and he said under oath that he advised the president on these pardons, and then he turned from freeing dangerous people convicted for assaulting police officers from prison to punishing the dedicated law enforcement agents who investigated those cases. Bove wrote a memo saying that prosecuting those who attacked the Capitol was, quote, a grave national injustice. So he went after those prosecutors. He fired those federal prosecutors and FBI agents who worked on the January 6th investigations. Bove then demanded a list of every single FBI employee who touched one of those cases, and in doing so, he exposed thousands of law enforcement officials to potential retribution by the pardoned and dangerous January 6th offenders. They're now roaming free. Several of these prosecutors reached out to my Republican colleagues and wanted to share their concerns, but not one person agreed to meet with them. The president can nominate judges to the court, but, and this is critical, he can only do so by with the advice and consent of the Senate. This is a constitutional duty imposed on this House, and it requires us, every single senator, to fully and fairly consider every nominee. Willful ignorance does not excuse any of us from our responsibility to seek the truth. It does not excuse us from our constitutional duty to provide advice and consent. I plead with my colleagues, look at the facts. Give it your scrutiny. Analyze this nominee. Look at his record. Emil Bove has shown time and time again his disrespect for the very office he seeks to hold. For God's sake, we have a whistleblower who brought testimony, receipts, texts, and emails showing that Bove said, despite the fact that he denied it in our hearings, said F you to court orders. He withheld evidence that could have helped to release an innocent person or a defendant. He broke his code of conduct. He broke his ethics. He advised for pardons on January 6th and then fired the dedicated law enforcement agents who investigated and prosecuted violent insurrectionists. And now he has critical information regarding the Epstein files. There's a lot of pressure these days to hastily push a person through who cannot be trusted on the federal bench. There's a lot of pressure these days to rubber stamp nominees. There's a lot of pressure these days to look the other way, even though the evidence is clear. There's a lot of pressure these days, but some of my Republican colleagues have broken and are standing, despite the pressure, are saying this person does not belong on the bench. I am grateful that some of my Republican colleagues are standing up and doing the right thing. There is a lot of pressure these days. There are a lot of threats. The president has put enormous pressure on people in the Republican Party who stand up and do the right thing. And yet, I've seen profiles in courage. In the first Trump administration, I saw them numerous times. I could tell you their names, from Corker to Flake. I saw my colleagues who in times of great distress stood up when we had a trial here. Multiple people said the president was guilty, who voted against judges that were not fit for the highest office in the land, who voted against nominees for his administration. I've seen this time and time again, the courage of Republicans in times of distress. I don't know of another case I have seen in my 14 years in the Senate where someone so unqualified for the bench is before us, but somehow right now it just seems to be too few Republicans willing to stand up with courage of their convictions, to call it like it is, to do their constitutional duty, to look squarely at the qualifications of this judge and see what plainly professionals, prosecutors, judges by the hundreds from both parties have come forward and said to this body, do not let him to go forward. There are just hours left before our final vote on this nominee. This is a time for another profile in courage. I'm hoping my Republican colleagues will look at the evidence and join with the conclusion held by so many patriots in our country and not let this man to the highest court, to one of our highest courts in the land. Thank you, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator from Connecticut.